Hello, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all our friends that are joining us today on another webinar from PJLA. The title today is Understanding the Conformity Assessment Ecosystem. This is George Anastasopoulos. I am the Technical and International Business Development Manager of PJLA, and I am happy to be with you once again. This is our fifth webinar in the row, and I see many new friends joining today. This is very nice. And I will be very happy to share with you today my knowledge about conformity assessment ecosystem. Personally, I am involved in conformity assessment for more than 25, close to 30 years. And I believe that I can reply to any of your questions, and you are welcome to ask, make your comments, and place your questions on the appropriate questions field on your interface. For the ones that you are not very familiar with PJLA, our accreditation body, PJLA is an accreditation body, independent accreditation third-party body located in the United States. I am right now at Troy, Michigan. It's a nice, lovely summer, sunny morning. PJLA was established in 1999 by Mr. Perry Johnson, and we are part of a larger group of conformity assessment bodies. And of course, you may be aware and know PGR, the Perry Johnson Registry, one of the largest certification bodies in the world. But as an accreditation body, we are a totally separate and independent body. And this is very important to note, because in our presentation today, we have to make a very good understanding of the difference between accreditation, certification, and all the categories of conformity assessment. Our accreditation body, PJLA, is working globally. We offered more than 15 programs of accreditation in more than 32 countries, and we have accredited more than 2,200 conformity assessment bodies globally. As I told you, we operate many different accreditation programs, and I will have the time in a while to go in details on the different categories of accreditation and certification. The one thing I would like to emphasize is that many of our programs are approved by appropriate authorities and regulators. We can provide many specialized accreditations that they are required by different conformity assessment bodies like FCC, FDA, EPA, and so on. I would like to start my presentation today with defining the term conformity assessment. Everybody may be familiar with terms like certification, accreditation, testing, but some people don't really understand or have a good feeling of conformity assessment definition. So what is conformity assessment? Conformity assessment is an activity to determine directly or indirectly that a process, product, or service meets specific technical standards and fulfill specific requirements. Now, these standards, these requirements can be set by standardization body, can be set by a regulator, they can be set by clients, but in general, associations, market associations, and so on. But in general, we always have specific requirements, technical standards, and we have to provide compliance to them. Now, who is a conformity assessment body? You may be not very familiar with the term CAB, conformity assessment body. Conformity assessment body is an organization that performs conformity assessment activities to demonstrate that products, processes, systems, or individuals meet specific requirements. So different conformity assessment bodies can be active in different categories of conformity assessment, such as testing, calibration, certification, inspection. When we say certification, it is a very wide area. We're talking about certification of products, certification of management systems, certification of people, and so on. So It is a very wide, broad term, certification, but we will see in a while that it is becoming very specific when we are talking about different categories of conformity assessment. But before we go to the categories of the conformity assessment, let's see what is accreditation. So accreditation is the third-party attestation of the competence of conformity assessment bodies. So the conformity assessment bodies, either they provide testing or they do certification or inspection, they are, let's say, checked by somebody that they are competent to offer this service. And those organizations who are verifying that the conformity assessment bodies are competent to perform their job are called accreditation bodies. So accreditation bodies are out there to ensure impartiality, reliability, and global recognition of the programs they accredit. And of course, global recognition of the certificates that they are issued, either from the testing laboratories or a calibration laboratory or an inspection agency and so on. Officially, according to ISO standards, accreditation is the formal recognition by an independent body, or we call it third-party body, generally known as an accreditation body, that a certification body operates according to international standards. And certification is the provision by an independent body of written assurance. A certificate is known in the market that a product, service, or system meets specific requirements. So those are the general terms for accreditation and certification, but all of these will be much more clear on this nice graph that presents in details the structure, the international conformity assessment structure. So as you can see here, and I would like to start from the bottom. You see at the bottom, it says end users, consumers, industry, professionals. So all this structure, all this conformity assessment structure, the certification, the testing, the accreditation, they are existing in order to serve the market. And the market out there are the end users, are the consumers who buy services, who buy products, and it is the industry who are producing products or they provide services, also people, professional people also, that they are there to serve us and provide also their competent services. So all this group here at the level of number 3 in my graph are the market. In one word, I would like to call it the market. And we are existing. I work in an accreditation body. I notice in the list of the attendants, I know many of you, you are working on the certification or testing industry. We are all existing to serve this market. And we are existing because they are end users, that they are willing to pay for products and services that they are assured that they compliant to specific requirements. So our role as an accreditation body or as a certification body, as a laboratory, as a member of the conformity assessment structure is to serve the market and guarantee to the consumers that they buy safe and quality products and services. Now, this level, the last level, number 3, as I told you, is the provision of services from conformity assessment bodies to the market. So the line between the zone 2 and 3 is the conformity assessment bodies. So you see, we have different groups of conformity assessment bodies. The first group is the laboratories, and when we're talking about laboratories, we're talking about testing laboratories, calibration laboratories, medical laboratories. And then we have another group that it is related to the product certification, which is inspection and product certification bodies. Each organization who are inspecting processes, they are inspecting products or they certify products, and they are another group of conformity assessment bodies. Then we have another category, the so-called management system certification bodies. All these certification bodies that they certify ISO 9000, 14000, and many other management system standards like occupational health and safety, energy management, and so on, thank God now there are many management systems issued by ISO, and they need some kind or a type of certification. All these management system certification bodies, and also I included in this group the validation and verification bodies that are much more related to environmental issues, are another big category of conformity assessment bodies. Then we have the personnel certification bodies, that they provide the certification to persons. They certify competence of people. They certify professionals who are in position to provide competent services in many different categories. You may listen certification of welders, of non-destructive testing, of technical personnel, of health support personnel, auditors and so on, project managers and so on, many categories of different certifications on the personnel sector. And finally, we have the group of reference material producers and proficiency testing providers, that they are supporting the whole process of conformity assessment. So all of these categories on this zone are the conformity assessment bodies, and you can see on the zone 2, which is the zone of accreditation between the accreditation bodies and the conformity assessment bodies, there are a series of standards. So those are the standards that they are used in order for the accreditation bodies to verify that the conformity assessment bodies are offering competent services. And the accreditation bodies are going and they are assessing these conformity assessing bodies not to their own will, but to the requirement of specific recognized international standards. And such standards are, for example, ISO IEC 17025, that describes the requirements for the operation of testing and calibration laboratories, or 15189 for medical laboratories. And on the group of the product-related certification, we have the standard 17020, ISO IEC 17020 for inspection bodies, and the standard 17065 for the product certification bodies. And if we jump on the management system certification category, one of the most popular standards, ISO IEC 17021 for the management system certification bodies, and 17029 for the verification validation bodies. In the personnel certification category, the applicable accreditation standard is the ISO IEC 17024. And last, under the reference material producers and for the proficiency testing providers, the two standards are the ISO IEC 17034 and 17043 for the proficiency testing providers. So all these standards, as you noticed, they are international standards. They are approved by the two big standardization international bodies, International Organization for Standardization and International Electrotechnical Committee, and they are all starting from 17,000. So this is not random, this is not a coincidence. They are all standards produced by a big technical committee of ISO called Conformity Assessment Committee. We call it CASCO committee. And those are all the standards of the family of 17,000, and they are related to accreditation. They are not the only ones. There are also some other additional standards that they are supporting, and they are helping the implementation of those main standards, but those are the main standards that they set requirements. So this accreditation, the accreditation provided globally to the conformity assessment bodies, are based on those specific accreditation standards. Now you may ask me, who decided that? This community decided that. So the market in reality was expecting to have some confidence, to be confident about the provided conformity assessment bodies. So in order to be sure that laboratories or certification bodies and so on provide the competent services, we had to develop those standards. So those standards are not very old. They were introduced around 2000, after 2000, most of them. Of course, before them, there were some ISO guides that they were related to operation of some of these categories, like laboratories or product certification. And there were also some European standards, EN standards, of 45,000 series that were related on the operation of conformity assessment bodies. But the whole market was shaped, I could say, on this form after 2000. So we're talking about only of a tradition of a systematic tradition of accreditation under those standards, 17,000 series standards for the last 25 years. So it's a relatively new field, I could say. And now the next step, which is above number 2, the zone number 2, is the accreditation bodies. Who is offering this accreditation? So the conformity assessment bodies are going through a systematic process of assessments that they are provided by the accreditation bodies. And those accreditation bodies are also operating with a specific standard, which is ISO IC 17011. So the whole structure of conformity assessment on global level is supported all the way up by 17011. And may ask me, okay, the accreditation bodies are assessing and they are checking the competence of the conformity assessment bodies. Who is checking the competence of the accreditation bodies? So the accreditation bodies under this specific conformity assessment structure are checked through a peer evaluation process that it is organized by international, I could say, associations of accreditation bodies. So this peer evaluation, this peer review process is the one that guarantees that the accreditation bodies operate to 17011. So the same way that assessors from accreditation bodies will go and they will visit the conformity assessment bodies to assess the implementation of their management system, the same way a team of competent peer evaluators from the IAF, ILAC, and the regional accreditation body associations will visit, and we will review the operation of the accreditation bodies. Now you may ask me, and you will see here that there is interrelation to regulation. Is that structure compulsory? Is that defined somewhere in some international agreements, or it is between agreements between countries? Is it required by law? The answer is yes and no. And I would like to say that in general and in principle, the operation of this structure is in a volunteer basis. So it's not that there is an international law that says the conformity assessment structure should be like this. It is not. But through agreements between regions, between groups of countries, this structure is somehow introduced on a more official way. I will give you an example, for example, although it's not on international level, on regional level, for example, in Europe, European Union member countries through European Commission have accepted that this structure will be official and operational under the European accreditation system. In a similar way, for example, in North America, there is an agreement between Canada, Mexico, and the United States for free trade. And over there is a chapter for conformity assessment that, although it does not really is making a photograph of that, it is describing that in more general terms. So there are countries that the government requires the accreditation and the operation of conformity assessment systems under this structure. And in many also areas of the world, they set a so-called monopoly of accreditation body. They introduce the logic and the term of a national accreditation body, that it is providing the conformity assessment accreditation services under such a structure. In some other areas of the world, like United States, North America, I could say, and some many Australia, Asian countries, we may have a more flexible approach. We have competing accreditation bodies, but still they operate, many of them, not all of them, operate under this structure. Because the next question that I could, many times I receive is that, okay, in some areas of the world or in some countries, this structure is regulated by government. Okay, but is this the only structure? And the answer is no. That in many different countries, this is one of the conformity assessment structures. At the end of my presentation, I have a few PowerPoints with detailed examples of other accreditation structures in specific sectors. So we could say, though, that this conformity assessment structure is the more popular all over the world. You will meet ILAC accreditation bodies and conformity assessment bodies in more, I could say, than 95% of the countries in the world. And the majority of the certificates, either their testing or management system or product certification, are issued under the authority of this structure. So it's volunteer. In some areas of the world is regulated, but it's not the only one, but it is the most popular. So in general, when we are talking about accreditation, certification, and so on, we are talking about the structure that is well known to operate with this network of accreditation bodies under the IAF and ILAC. IAF and ILAC, and I will explain in a while, are the International Association of Accreditation Bodies. Now, the regulators, and when I say regulators, I mean different, I could say state governmental authorities or even the government by itself, are cooperating with accreditation bodies, either endorsing or requiring partial or full implementation of this structure. And what I mean that sometimes regulators, they don't say, oh, all certifications or all testing should be provided under accredited labs or management system bodies. It can be provided by specific labs or management system bodies that they are approved by an accreditation body on high risk areas. So you will see regulators that they require, for example, accredited testing or accredited management system certification or product certification on high risk areas, but not everywhere. So in that cases, we will see regulatory bodies in the United States is like FCC, and the EPA for environment, FCC is for electronics, electromagnetic radiation, FDA for Food and Drugs Administration, that they either endorse or require operation of accreditation systems under this structure. Regulators also will use accreditation and certification structure in, as I told you, high-risk categories all over the world. When you see, for example, in Europe, CE marking, which is a mark of safety for many products, for many categories of products, the government of Europe, the European Commission in reality, they introduce the operation of those common directive standards and regulations to be endorsed by a system of the so-called notification, which notification in reality is requiring to go through accreditation to the appropriate applicable conformity assessment standards. So it is the CE categories, they are right now around 25 plus minus. In Europe, they require to the producers to produce products that they are tested or certified by accredited bodies, and then they called notified bodies, these conformity assessment bodies, and the process is based and safeguarded by the accreditation system of the world. So in that area of the world, the governments, they subcontract accreditation bodies to oversee the operation of their conformity assessment structure, but not for everything, for specific categories of products or services. In addition, we will see that there is cooperation with accreditation bodies of other interested parties who are involved in the process of accreditation. And you can see, for example, that there are endorsed schemes for specific categories of conformity assessment from associations of different groups. These interested parties, for example, can be an association of supermarkets that they want to buy safe food products to be consumed by their consumers in their supermarket, or can be associations of manufacturers, can be associations of specific organizations. For example, we have endorsed schemes for accreditation under IAF and ILAC, and for organizations like this is IPC, which are offering it's the Association of Personnel Certification Bodies, or Global Gap, or for BRC, which are associations of consumer entities in Europe and internationally, Global Gap in food and so on. So all those interested parties are cooperating either with accreditation bodies on national level, or they are cooperating with the IAF and ILAC on global level to guarantee that all consumers, if they use products that they are produced by their member conformity assessment bodies, they will receive an equivalent quality or level of service. So all these schemes guarantee that at the end user is enjoying a safe or good quality product with similar standard, equivalent, let's say, certification or equivalent laboratory testing quality all over the world, or at least all over the countries that those association, entities, interested parties are operating. And of course, last but not least, the major player who supports all this structure is the international standardization, as it is run by ISO, as I told you, International Organization for Standardization, an international electrotechnical committee that they are producing not only those standards that I mentioned before about the operation of conformity assessment bodies, but they are producing all the technical standards that the labs are using, management system certification bodies are using, inspection bodies, personnel certification, reference material producers are using all these testing standards. Either they are ISO directly, or they are EN European standards, or ASTM in America, and so on. Many different hundreds of different standardization bodies that they operate according to the rules of ISO and IEC, that they produce specific standards like management system standards, also ISO 9000, one of the most popular standards out there for quality management systems and so on, that they are standards that they are used either for products, either for services, either for testing, either for product certification or management system certification, but what are they doing? What we are succeeding with all these standards? We are succeeding to have a homogeneous, a consistent process of conformity assessment globally. Because if a product, a construction material, is testing according to a specific BSI standard, British, or ASTM American standard, if the lab is performing the test according to the standard in Europe, or in America, or in Africa, or in Australia, or in Asia, they will have a consistent result if the lab is accredited according to 17025. So we have a chain of standards similar to the chain of conformity assessment that guarantees the overall performance of the products and the services that they are used by the consumers, the industry, the market out there. So I believe that we have we had a good understanding up to now. The two points that I already mentioned, and I would like to repeat before I proceed to my next PowerPoint, is that this structure is generally volunteer in its nature, and it can become regulated by regulators, governments, or other states or whatever in specific areas of the world and under specific conditions for specific product categories, okay? And the second thing I would like to say is that this international conformity assessment structure is not the only one existing in the world. There are other independent accreditation and conformity assessment structures in specific categories and markets that they are not related to that structure. It does not mean that they are better or worse, they are different, okay? But this structure is the most popular and more recognizable all over the world. So I would like also to remind you that there is the questions field that you can, if you have any questions or you need some clarification, you can do it. So I mentioned in my previous PowerPoint that the whole accreditation market is managed or is operated, and it's guaranteeing the competence of the accreditation systems under regional associations who operate under IAF and ILAC, who are the international associations. So what are those regional associations? You may be familiar, or you may have noticed in your certificate sometimes reference to those associations. So in general, they are associations that they are of accreditation bodies, that they are regional. It means that they are operating in specific areas of the world, and in order to facilitate the peer evaluation, it is easier and more economical to do it on a regional basis. So in reality, the peer evaluation that is performed under IAF and ILAC system is not performed directly under IAF and ILAC. It is performed by the regional members of IAF and ILAC. For example, in Europe is European accreditation. And we also have in Africa, the AFRAC. We have ARAC and SADCA, that they are in South America and the Middle East. We have APAC, which is one of the biggest organizations, which is Asia and Americas, mainly North America, but not always. Plus also we have the IAC, which is the Americans, with emphasis on the Central and Latin America, but also countries of North America, plus also NAF, which is a North American accreditation forum, is not participating directly in as a regional member of IAF and ILAC, because NAF is operating under the APAC and IAAC system, but it is the association of actually accreditation bodies from Mexico, United States, and Canada, because they have to support the free trade agreement between those three countries. So those are all the regional cooperation bodies, and each one is recognizing the operation of the other. So this means that if you have a certificate that is issued under a conformity assessment body under the APAC system, it is considered equivalent with the one issued by Europe or Africa or whatever else, Middle East and so on. So those are the regional bodies. And now I would like to just stress a little bit on the IAF and ILAC. IAF and ILAC are the international associations of accreditation bodies. ILAC stands for International Laboratory Accreditation Cooperation, and it mainly covers the testing laboratories and the accreditation bodies that they are in the sector of calibration and testing, medical labs, inspection, proficiency testing, and reference material producers. So those are the categories under ILAC, and it started as a conference in Denmark, in Copenhagen in 1977, and it was established as a non-profit organization in Australia in 1996. There is another organization, the International Accreditation Forum, which is the association of accreditation bodies that they are offering accreditation in the fields of management systems, products and processes, services, personnel, validation, and verification. Now, this organization was formed in 1993 in Texas, United States, and it was established officially as a non-profit organization in 1998 in Delaware, United States. Now, those two organizations practically, they have the same members. Practically, because there are some members that they don't offer the ILAC accreditations and also the IAF, but 90% I could say of the members are the same. That's why they have common meetings. They have an interim meeting every spring and the general meeting in October. And technically it's the same accreditation bodies who join both meetings. And after so many years, there was a discussion why to have two different separate associations of accreditation bodies, since the majority of accreditation bodies are offering both the categories, the groups of accreditations. So there was a decision in last year to merge those international accreditation associations and create a new one called Global Accreditation Cooperation. Now, the reason I have it in brackets, the global, is because the acronym is not decided yet. So probably it will not be GLOBAC. So but the organization will be named Global Accreditation Cooperation, and when the acronym will be copyrighted, it will be released, expected in a few months, to know the acronym of this new legal entity that is registered as a non-profit organization in New Zealand. And from next year, ILAC and IAF, we will cease to exist as such, and they will operate under the Global Accreditation Cooperation. Under the agreement of the establishment of Global Accreditation Cooperation, it was decided that all the processes, the policies, and so on remain valid, so there will be no significant effect on the global market of conformity assessment. Now, you may ask me, how do the accreditation bodies guarantee that they have equivalence of service? Is it enough to operate according to ISO 17011? Not really. So the associations of accreditation bodies globally decided that in order to guarantee that they offer a consistent, or I could say equivalent service, they should establish the so-called mutual recognition agreements, multilateral agreements, MRA or MLAs respectively, with a purpose to achieve a global acceptance of conformity assessment results. So the whole structure is not existing just to guarantee that the accreditation bodies are offering consistent accreditations. It is also that through the operation of the accreditation bodies, the conformity assessment bodies, the labs, the certification bodies are offering globally consistent certification and consistent testing and so on. So the final goal is to have one conformity assessment certificate that it is valid globally. So if your organization, for example, is certified to ISO 9001 in Australia, a client of yours will recognize this certificate in Europe or in Middle East or anywhere else. The same that is if a testing certificate is issued by a lab accredited to 17025 by an accreditation body which is member, a signatory of the MRA of ILAC, this testing certificate will be acceptable globally. So the test should not be duplicated again and again. So all these international agreements, the IAF MLA, the ILAC MRA, are existing to facilitate the international trade by promoting the acceptance of accredited laboratory, inspection body, and management system certification and personnel certification results across the borders all over the world. So that's the operation of MLA. And the acceptance of an accreditation body on the IAF, ILAC, MLA is depending upon being successfully evaluated by peers from other ABs. So the same way that, the similar, let's say, way that an accreditation body is assessing a conformity assessment body, in a similar way, the accreditation body is receiving peer evaluation, is evaluated from the IAF and ILAC teams that they are operating, as I told you before, under the regional members like EA, APAC, and so on. So the operation of the accreditation bodies should be consistent to the requirements of ISO EC 17011 and the additional IAF and ILAC rules and procedures. So in addition to the main standard, IAF and ILAC are issuing specific rules and procedures. Most of them are product standard specific, for example, for management systems or for personnel certification or for inspection bodies or labs and so on. And those peer evaluations include evaluation of the records of the accreditation bodies on their office, but also witnessing the operation of the accreditation bodies when they perform their assessments or reassessments of on-site. Okay, so this way there is we're building confidence that the accreditation bodies operating on a confident but also on a consistent way on a global level. Okay, so that's the process of the operation of MLA, of IAF and ILAC. So we should emphasize that MLAs and MRAs of ILAC and ILAC, they mean equally reliable results. They don't guarantee a reissue of certificates. For example, if you are a testing laboratory that you are accredited by a member, an accreditation body, for example, in Mexico, and you open a subsidiary in the United States, does not mean that the United States accreditation body should reissue your accreditation certificate. No, it means though that your certificates that are issued from your Mexico labs are equally reliable to the ones that they are issued by the United States. The same can apply with an example in every other 2 countries of the world. So during the process of accepting the results of the MLA and MRA, the MLA and MRA signatories agree to accept the results of each other's accredited conformity assessment bodies, but it does not mean that they have to duplicate their certificates. It is an equally reliable certification. Also, under IAF and ILAC, there is a structure of different MLA levels, as we call it, MLA level 1 to MLA level 5, starting from the more general level of the multilateral agreements and going to more specific. So this means that the level 1 is operation of ISO 17011, which specifies sets the criteria for accreditation bodies. And then we go to MLA level 2, which is different accreditation activities. For example, management system certification or product certification or personnel certification and so on, the big categories. And then in level 3, it is the IAF, for example, or ILAC endorsed normative documents used for the accreditation bodies. The ones I did show on my graph, 17065, 17021, 17024, and so on. And on level 4, for example, on IAF program, we have the endorsed sector-specific normative documents used by accreditation bodies. For example, for management system auditor certification, IAF has endorsed the IPC program, IPC PL 1106, which could be on level 4 or level 5, which is the most detailed level. So there is a different, I could say, different steps on the MLA. In ILAC world, the level 4 and level 5 are the specific technical standards. So if we say you're performing a specific test for the tension of metallic specimens according to a specific BS standard or DIN standard or ASTM standard, this is your level 5. Your level 5, the 5th level of the MLA, because this is the level that specifies the exact technical specification for this test. Under the level 3 could be 17025. Level 2 could be the accreditation activity for laboratory and so on. So that's the structure of the recognition level of the IAF and ILAC MLA. And now, before ending my presentation, I have a few more minutes. I would like to give you some data to understand the size of the IAF and ILAC conformity assessment structure. Those are data I got from the websites of IAF and ILAC, and for example, you can see the total number of accreditation bodies up to the end of last year that they are members of ILAC. So you can see, and we're talking about mainly for testing labs, okay, calibration labs and so on, and inspection bodies and so on. So we're talking about around 130 accreditation bodies. As I told you, it's not per country, one per country. In many countries, it's one per country. In many countries, we have more, but 130 accreditation bodies practically means close to 100 countries, so practically all over the world. And you see how many of them are members and how many of them in the purple column are members of the MRA. So it does not mean that all the members of IAF and ILAC are already in the MRA, but many of them are working. Or they may be members on the ILAC MRA or IAF MLA for specific scopes. The scopes are the levels I described you before. Now, how many conformity assessment bodies are accredited under the ILAC system? So we're talking again for testing labs, medical, calibration labs, inspection bodies, proficiency testing providers, and reference materials. And we are talking about easily more than 100,000 for 2024. The big majority, of course, are the testing laboratories. If you see on 2024 data, 70,000 plus are testing laboratories, around 14,000 are the calibration labs and the inspection bodies. The rest are smaller numbers. So we see that many thousand of conformity assessment bodies are part of the ILAC system, and that shows the big strength of that specific conformity assessment structure. Now, if we go to IAF, you will see that in IAF, under IAF, we have the different regions. I have data per region. I don't have the total for IAF. And we have the total number of accredited certification bodies and management system, product, persons, and verification and validation. You can see that this is for Europe only, okay? In Europe only, EA members, we have around 4,500 accredited certification bodies, and product around 2,000, and so on. So you can see the total number, sorry, is 4,400. Out of them, half are management systems, 1/3 is products, and so on. So we have this structure. APAC here, there is a gap, there is a statistical problem, but in reality, in APAC level, Asia Pacific, we can see that we have 7,500 accredited CBs and BBBs. Management system bodies are 5,000 out of those 7,000. Again, the big majority. Product certification, 1,800, and the rest are personnel certification and BBBs. So we know that the most popular category under IAF system is the accreditation of management systems, and then is the product. Now it's time before the end to give you some examples of other accreditation body systems and the conformity assessment structures. So this is, for example, the world of education, mainly higher education, that under the higher education in America, in Europe, and the other areas of the world, they run their different accreditation systems. As I told you, those conformity assessment systems are not operating under the ISO system. They don't use 17024 because this is education or whatever. They use their own standards of accreditation. On many of those systems, they use the term accreditation in an equivalent way that in our ISO system we use the word certification, but this doesn't matter. They are different structures. As I told you, those different structures of conformity assessment, they are not better or worse from the ISO system. They are different, just different. So they satisfy different requirements of different end users, and as long as they are recognized from their members on their markets, they are good enough. So I would like you to know that there are different examples of conformity assessment. We are not under ISO the only one in the world, and we should respect that. And if you talk to other organizations, for example, this university is accredited by the Asia Pacific Quality Network, for example. and or from an American, the Northwest American accreditation system. Those systems out of Asian conformity assessment, but still they are very reputable and competent conformity assessment systems. Or this one, very usual in the health industry. In the health industry, there is a global healthcare accreditation program, and they are totally different accreditation systems than ISO, and they have their own standards. And in Canada is the Accreditation Canada, the Joint Commission, the Australian Council of Healthcare Standards, and so on. So in India, the National Accreditation Board for Hospitals and Healthcare Providers, and so on. So there are many different systems. I don't want to emphasize of them. I would like to come as my last PowerPoint back to our own conformity assessment structure. And I say our own because I do work and I do serve this specific conformity assessment structure under IAF, ILAC, and the ISO IC 17,000 series of standards. So I believe that the presentation was clear enough to understand you. I use it as a map. And if you are a certification body, you should be in position to identify your location in this map. So if you certify products, you are located here. If you certify the people, you are located here. If you if you are a testing laboratory, you are located here. And in this, if you can identify your location on the map, first you can realize the market you serve, and then you realize what are the standards you need to comply in order to be accredited by the accreditation body on your region, and also what are the interactions of the other interested parties, the government, and the global recognition, where from the global recognition of this accreditation comes for your laboratory. So with these words, I would like to conclude my presentation. I used 5 more minutes than what I was designed to, but I would be happy to answer to any questions if there are any questions. I see some greetings from some friends, but I don't see any specific questions. So it looks like everything was clear or nothing was clear. Either one is true. Hopefully that everything was clear. This presentation was designed because I was receiving many requests of many questions, and how credible is my certification, and if your accreditation body is equivalent to our national accreditation body, and do I need IAF and ILAC recognition, and whatever. So I would like to prepare this presentation as a key map to the conformity assessment world, and have a good understanding how we do operate, and how this structure guarantees that at the end of the day, the market, the consumers, the industry will receive a legit, safe, and quality product or service. So one question is, how can we get a copy of the presentation? Yes, on the last PowerPoint, you can see my email. So I would be happy either to send to the organizer. Our organizer is our company, okay? Or to me, an email and ask for a copy. And I will be happy to send you the presentation. Also, I say comment, yes, everything was clear. Thank you for noting, okay? Where are you located in this map? I mean PJLA. Okay, PJLA, we're here, accreditation bodies. I mean, we are signatory of ILAC, MRA. We are an accreditation body that we offer. Actually, we offer all these accreditation bodies as a service except 17021 and 17020. This group here. And the reason we don't provide management system certification is because, as I told you at the beginning, in our group of company, there is also a management system certification body with in the same ownership, so we don't want to confuse the market. So we accredit everything except management system certification bodies. So that's where we are located in this map, okay? So, and also we are located in Troy, Michigan, geographically. Okay, another question is, as a management system auditor, what is the level of MLA that guarantee the smooth movement between CB's accreditation for different ABs? Okay, it's here. As a management system auditor, you are expected to have a certification by a personnel certification body accredited to ISO 17024, and specifically, IAF has endorsed the IPC scheme for management system auditors. So if you are a management system auditor, you should seek accreditation by a certification body which is accredited to 17024 and offering accreditation to IPC scheme, because IPC management system auditor is the only one globally which is endorsed by IAF. You can check, you can contact me for more details directly on my email. Also, you can check with IPC at their website, ipcaweb.org, ipcaweb.org. Those are the association that they issue the IAF endorsed management system auditor scheme that you can achieve accreditation under 17024. That Morocco is a signatory member of ILAC. I don't remember about Morocco, but it is very easy to find out. If you enter ILAC website, there is a list that says MLA members, so you can check. From the best I know, yes, but I'm not 100% sure, okay? So there is another question. Can you give us a certificate? It depends what certificate you want. So if you want to be accredited by PJLA, what you have to do if you're a testing laboratory or another type of conformity assessment body and you want an accreditation certificate, you have to contact me at my email that you can see. You see that right now in the PowerPoint, and I can reply to your question. I need more specific information. If PJLA can issue a certificate, depends on the category of conformity assessment body you are. How is this merger of ILAC affect local calibration labs? To tell you the truth, it does not really. This merge of IAF and ILAC is made not to affect the conformity assessment bodies, including, of course, the local calibration laboratories. So what you will notice after a while, probably you will be contacted by your local accreditation body, and they will tell you, guys, we will transition from my ILAC logo on your certificate to the new logo that will be the acronym of the new merge organization. So I told you it will sound something like global, but it will not probably be global. It will be something similar. It will be like global accreditation cooperation, so what. So, but the operation, your everyday operation, the requirements of accreditation, they will remain the same. Don't forget that APAC, if you are in the Asia Pacific zone, or EA, if you are in Europe, for example, or in another zone, they have already been merged. So they don't have two separate entities for labs and for management systems. So you will still remain under your regional association of accreditation. The requirements will not change. So technically, if you are a local conformity assessment body like a calibration lab, you will not feel any difference in your life. Do you plan to present in North Africa countries? Yes, although there are local accreditation bodies, PJLA is an international conformity accreditor of conformity assessment bodies. So we have assessors and representatives all over the world. So if there is a conformity assessment body, a lab, management, or not management systems, because we don't offer, but the product certification, inspection, personnel certification, and one of the other standards of conformity assessment, we will be happy to offer you our services in North Africa or other areas of the world that it is legally allowed, of course. And the You can get more information by contacting me directly at my mail. So that was the last question, I think. I don't see any other unanswered questions. So I think that at this moment, we completed our presentation for today. It was a pleasure once again to be with you. Listen to me, listen to your questions, try to share my experience and knowledge with you. Please stay tuned because soon another free webinar, another free PJLA webinar will be announced for the end of next month. Take care, have a nice morning, afternoon or evening, wherever you are in the world, and have a great time. Goodbye from me. Thank you.